You thought Shane Van Gisbergen on the road courses was the most dominant force in NASCAR? Think again, buddy.
There's the contact! He does get to him! The 11 on the inside! He gets into the wall! Dillon's gonna win!
No contact this year! It's all Austin Dillon!
Dude, I don't know what it is about Austin Dillon at Richmond, but can someone explain it to me? Like, I remember back in 2020. In 2020, Austin Dillon randomly showed up at Richmond. Just went out, and he didn't even win the race. I think he finished third in that race. Maybe even runner-up. Just ran top 5 the entire night, led some laps, and it was like, wow, that's so random by Austin Dillon. Good for him. Well, then last year happens. Austin Dillon not having a great season, running 32nd in points. I don't even know if that's accurate. It could have been 31st, 33rd. He was running in the 30s in the points. Randomly pops off at Richmond, is going to win the race on merit, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. wrecks on the last lap, or 2 laps to go. So we now need an overtime finish. Well, Austin Dillon botches the next restart. Joey Logano takes the lead, and Austin Dillon, being 32nd in points, needs to win to make the playoffs. I think it was the same situation as this year. 2 races to go until the playoffs start. So naturally, Austin Dillon obliterates Joey Logano and then right rear hooks Denny Hamlin as well. And for the first time in NASCAR's history of their playoff system, they decide to take away the win, not necessarily the actual statistic, not necessarily the winnings or the trophy, but they decide to take away the playoff eligibility of a driver who won a race based on their on-track actions. Because Austin Dillon right rear hooked Denny Hamlin at the end of that thing, he got his win stripped in terms of playoff eligibility. So what about this year heading into Richmond? Austin Dillon still needed to win a race. He was 28th in points, and oddly enough, had 406 points and was minus 406. So, I don't know. I thought that was a pretty random number that they both added up. Anyways, back to the point. 28th in points. Can't point his way in. Has to win. But he's won at Richmond before. He's won at Daytona before. Randomly pops off at Richmond again. Like, what did they figure out at Richmond? The 3 teams specifically. The 8 car was fast in practice. And they qualified poorly, and they had a horrendous race. What does the 3 team know? What does Austin Dillon know about this track that he's able to just perfect it? I don't know. Leads 107 laps tonight. Started 11th, so a decent qualifying effort. I don't know, man. Someone smarter than me explain it in the comments. Why is Austin Dillon so good at Richmond? It's so random. Out of all the tracks, why Richmond? Someone explain it to me. Someone smarter than me explain it to me. So for the second straight year at Richmond, the playoff bubble gets nuked. Now this time it will more than likely not be overturned. If it does, I'll be back here in about 3 hours talking about inspection. But no, realistically, this result is going to stand, and this time, Austin Dillon is going to make the playoffs, and he wins once again at Richmond. Well, for the second straight week, we're talking about redemption. Last week, we talked about SVG. He blows the bus stop chicane in 2024 at Watkins Glen, loses the race. He then wins the race this year in dominating fashion. Well, Austin Dillon last year, it's a different type of redemption. As I referenced, wrecks Joey Logano, wrecks Denny Hamlin. They get the playoff eligibility stripped. Well, they come back and send a message that says, hey, that win was legit. And that win last year was going to be extremely legit. It was going to be... Now, look, all Cup Series wins are legit, in my opinion, but you had a lot of people saying, oh, you had to wreck 2 guys to win that race. Well, before that caution, they were going to win that race on merit anyways. Well, they come back and they send a message, and they say, hey, that win last year wasn't a joke. We were genuinely that fast. We were genuinely that good. We were better than everyone that night. And for the second straight year, they were better than everyone that night. They win at Richmond. Again, they nuked the playoff bubble. We'll look at that in a minute. Chasing him down in the final laps was Alex Bowman. Bowman, dude, tires tonight were a massive, massive difference. We talked about last week at Watkins Glen. Tires made a difference when there was a big, big gap. I'm talking 10, 15, 20 laps on tires. That's when you saw the advantage. But if it was 1, 2, even 3 or 4 laps, didn't make that much of a difference. Tonight, it made a difference. If you were 2 laps off schedule, if you pitted 2 laps later, you were almost a rocket ship. We saw the normal Richmond strategies. Can you 3-stop it to the end of the race? Can you 2-stop it? Splitting the stage in half, trying to make it on a 1-stopper versus doing a 2-stopper. Like, we saw all these different tire strategies that we normally see at Richmond, but Goodyear nailed this tire compound. I mean, what a race. I mean, passing all night long. There was never a dull moment in this race. Like, sometimes at Richmond, stage 1 can be a little bit dull. We see tire fall off and we see some cars drop back, but we don't see a lot of action. Well, tonight we saw action immediately. Like, within 30 laps, guys are pitting for new tires. They couldn't even make it halfway through stage 1, which was a 70-lap stage. We saw passing all night long. We saw different tire strategies. And truly, 2 to 3 laps was a huge, huge difference in the tires. We saw it with Austin Dillon on the second to last run. He pitted, I think, 1 or 2 laps, maybe even 3 laps later than Ryan Blaney, chases him down from multiple seconds back. It was thrilling. It was exciting. We saw side-by-side action, 3 wide, 4 wide. We even saw the big one at Richmond. I mean, we truly saw everything. And this race didn't get too ugly. It never got too sloppy like Iowa a couple of weeks ago. But we saw a genuinely fantastic short track race in 2025. After all the talk at Iowa about, oh, the next gen sucks, oh, the short track racing is ruined, Goodyear steps up again, and they provide a great race. You can still say all you want about the car because, once again, the tires really made this race truly exciting. But anywho, Alex Bowman was chasing down Dillon in those last laps. Bowman's now on the cut line. He's plus 60, so if we don't get a new winner at Daytona next week, Alex Bowman's in the playoffs. Problem is, Daytona produces random winners. Remember Harrison Burton last year? We've seen Austin Dillon, as I said, he's been one of those random winners. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Like, you can scroll up and down the list of the guys who haven't won. Close your eyes and pick one. There's a real possibility that, hey, that ends up being the guy. So Alex Bowman, in a sense, he did not need to win, but it would have eased all the pressure next week, and he was chasing him down. We talked about that tire differential. I think he had 5 lap fresher tires than Austin Dillon. He was chasing him down, got it within 4 seconds, got it within 3, but then he caught lap traffic, and Dillon had already cleared it. Dillon had clean air in front of him. Bowman caught Shane Van Gisbergen. He caught John Hunter Nemechek, Eric Jones, and Jesse Love at a very poor time, and ultimately that did it. He couldn't get by SVG. He couldn't get by Jesse Love, and Bowman was on the radio. He was frustrated, heat of the moment, saying, oh, that's his teammate Jesse Love. Oh, I think SVG, Trackhouse has ECR engines, like, race manipulation or something. And I don't think he meant it. He said in his post-race interview that, heat of the moment, things are said, no big deal. Like, yeah, I think that was truly just heat of the moment. He was frustrated, but at the same time, like, I understand the frustration for Bowman. You don't necessarily need to win to make the playoffs, but knowing if there are 2 new winners in these next 2 weeks, then yeah, you're screwed. I understand his frustration. I understand his position. I think it was 10 laps to go. He had cut the lead to 3-ish, maybe under 3 seconds, catches that lap traffic, can't clear him, burns up his stuff, and that was all. So let's go through the results of this race. As I said, fantastic race. Really, really fantastic race, in my opinion. But Austin Dillon's your winner. For the 2nd straight year, he wins at Richmond. Once again, so random that this is his track. I don't know if it's the setup. I don't know if it's just he's a master at managing the tires. I don't know if it's just the banking. I don't know if it's the steering input that he has. I don't know if it's just the air. Maybe he just lands in Virginia, gets into the city limits of Richmond, steps out of the plane and gets that fresh Richmond, Virginia air, and just all of a sudden, whoa, like he increases his horsepower by 100. I don't know, but Austin Dillon at Richmond, the most random domination we've ever seen, maybe. Like, we've seen random drivers be really good at super speedways or at road courses, and that's a specialty in itself, to be really good at a style of racetrack at a different type of racetrack, but to be super good and just lead all these laps and win at one single track randomly once a year when you're like 28th to 30th in the points, like, I don't fully understand it. Someone smarter than me does. He does it again. Austin Dillon wins at Richmond, nukes the playoff bubble. We will look at that after we look at the results here. Alex Bowman second. As I said earlier, like, great result for Alex Bowman for him to be up front, to be in the top 5. This is a track he's won at before back in 2021. This is a track he's pretty good at. But with the playoff implications, ultimately they wanted one more spot to ease the stress at Daytona. But now they got to go into Daytona stressed because of the potential of a new winner. Now, theoretically, there could be a new winner. Let's say Daniel Suarez goes and wins the race. Well, Bowman could still technically point his way in, but he's got to outscore Tyler Reddick by 30 points. That means Reddick potentially wrecking early. That means Bowman scoring either a lot of stage points or finishing in the top 5. Like, it's asking for a lot. So Bowman, either he needs to win or he needs a repeat winner. It doesn't matter if it's his teammate. It doesn't matter if it's Josh Berry. It doesn't matter if Austin Dillon goes back-to-back. Bowman needs a repeat winner to feel completely safe and make the playoffs. Blaney, third. The only oval in the Cup Series that he had 0 top 5s at, and he gets his first tonight. Led 39 laps in this race. They played the strategy perfectly, put themselves in position to win this race or at least be in contention for it. But that last run, they pitted 3 laps later than Austin Dillon, I believe. Tried to chase him down, but Dillon saved enough tire and Blaney burned him off too much. Blaney ends up falling way off. He ends up finishing, 9 or 10 seconds behind. So ultimately, it was a great run by Ryan Blaney, a top 5, a podium. We don't really celebrate that, but a top 3 finish, a great day for Ryan Blaney at a track that historically he has struggled at. 4th place, Joey Logano started this race at the back. He crashed in practice, had a bad qualifying lap after that damage kind of didn't really get fixed. So Logano started dead last, had to chop his way through the field. They had to play the strategy a bit. Remember, Logano was in contention for this win last year when he was dumped by today's winner, Austin Dillon, and last year's winner, technically. But Logano recovers. I picked him for redemption on the Monday after last week because I'm a big believer in redemption. I didn't really think of the Austin Dillon redemption story. Here we are. But Joey Logano, a great day. And then look at this. All 3 Team Penske cars in the top 5. Austin Cindric with a top 5 run. Great job by Austin Cindric. He was up front most of the night. Unfortunately for the rest of the field, this is bad news because Team Penske is still really good at these shorter, flatter ovals. We see it at Phoenix, most notably, which is where the championship is. So if any of those 3 cars, and then including Josh Berry down in 8th, make the final 4, good luck. You're going to need a little bit more than luck because Team Penske's still really good at this type of track. Kyle Larson, 6th, qualified 30th, had a really poor outing. At one point, caught a really well-timed caution. I think that was the Tyler Reddick spin. So they end up getting up there. They play some strategy, and they end up finishing 6th. Daniel Suarez, 7th, ran really well in this race last year. I think that was when we had the option versus the soft tire. I don't even remember how we identified them. But we had the 2 different sets of tires. I remember they qualified really poorly in that race, but they went with the soft tire and they ended up chopping through the field, getting up into the top 5, top 10, and then they never relinquished it. They stayed up in the top 5, top 10 on speed once they got there. Kind of the same situation, but they were up there the entire race. They qualified 21st, so not horrible, not great, but once they got into the top 10, they were able to stay in the top 10. I think they led 1 lap, but they were up in the top 5 at times. Like, really good night for Daniel Suarez. Back-to-back top 10s. Unfortunately, he needs a win at Daytona in order to make the playoffs in his final season at Trackhouse. Josh Berry finishes in 8th. As I said, those Penske cars so good at these short, flat ovals. Brad Keselowski with a top 10. Ultimately, he needs a win. Denny Hamlin with an up-and-down night. In the top 5 really early in this race. This is the track that he's so good at. It's his home track, leads a lot of laps, wins stages, wins races. Like, this is one of his best tracks. So Naturally, we all anticipated him being in the mix for the win. They had some horrible pit stops tonight. I'm talking 3 or 4 just really bad pit stops. This is one of the best pit crews in the business, but it was just not their night. And then they get involved in the big one at Richmond, and they have to play some alternate strategies, and they end up with the top 10, which is really good. But once again, they had the speed to be up there, be in the top 5 potentially, and ultimately 10th. Really good run for Zane Smith in 11th. Solid run for him. He would need a win next week to advance, but really solid win. William Byron in 12th. While 12th may not seem significant in any way, shape, or form, with the DNF of teammate Chase Elliott, William Byron wins the 2025 regular season championship. Unless he gets disqualified, but I don't think that's going to be the case. So, ultimately, Byron, he's more than 61 points ahead of Elliott heading into Daytona. And as a result, Byron wins the regular season championship. Is this his second regular season championship? I think he won it back in 23. Correct me if I'm wrong, but another William Byron regular season championship, maybe. Once again, someone correct me if I'm wrong there. But they did just enough after they got that 42-point gap after last week at Watkins Glen with Elliott's bad race. They respond. They put a decent race together. They were actually technically involved in the wreck that Elliott was in. And they end up surviving. They finished 12th. 13th, Chase Briscoe. He got dumped by Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch, we'll talk about him here in about 3 spots. Shane Van Gisbergen matches his best oval finish of the season. Did it back at Charlotte at May. Had a 14th place finish. He does it here tonight at Richmond. The improvement on the ovals. It's been a topic all season long. Obviously, we'll do a more in-depth tomorrow night. Or sometime tomorrow. It's Saturday night. I'm not used to this, but sometime tomorrow I'll do my normal SVG recap for the Australians and Kiwis. But was in the top 20 like the entire night. Qualified not great, but they made their way up, ran up there, were on the edge of the top 10 for a good part of this race, and they end up 14th. So really good run for Shane Van Gisbergen. They need some oval momentum as they're about to head into the playoffs, but a promising sign. Carson Hocevar, 15th. They tried to play an alternate strategy, 3-stop that last stage, and it did not work out. Kyle Busch, 16th. He tried his best to recreate what Austin Dillon did last year on the last lap. On accident. It was on accident. He spins out Chase Briscoe heading into 3 and 4, and then after he did that, he went ahead and turned down the racetrack to get out of it, and he accidentally clips Chase Elliott. Elliott hard into the outside wall. And as I said, Kyle Busch unintentionally recreates the Austin Dillon scene a year later. And 16th, for the second straight year, he's heading into Daytona needing a win. Michael McDowell, Ty Gibbs, Ross Chastain, Ty Dillon, Christopher Bell, AJ Allmendinger, Stenhouse, Custer, Gilliland, Jones, Gregson, Bubba Wallace, 23-11 racing. I know I quickly went over Reddick. No, just kidding. I hadn't got to him yet. 23-11, what was an extremely promising night turned into a disaster. Tyler Reddick led 41 laps in this race. Bubba leads 123. They sweep the stages. Reddick wins stage 1. Bubba wins stage 2. Race-winning speed, up front all night, running 1-2 at portions of this race. And they throw it away. And I will say with Reddick's was not his fault. Daniel Suarez tries to bump Ty Gibbs out of the way, some tire differential there, and Ty Gibbs, when he gets shoved up the racetrack, nowhere to go, and Tyler Reddick's the innocent bystander and goes around, spins, has some damage that ultimately ruins their night. And then the Bubba Wallace one, they just shoot themselves in the foot. They're running in the top 2 the entire night. They come down for their green flag pit stop, and they miss the left front. They don't get that lug nut tightened. The wheel goes rolling off on pit road. They have to go pit in the 19 stall. Thankfully, a Toyota teammate there to help them, but that's a penalty. They end up getting pinned a couple of laps down, I think, and they end up finishing 28th, 2 laps down. They get a bonus point for the fastest lap, but on the bright side, they got a playoff point, I guess, maybe. But as I said, really, really disappointing result for 23-11. Seemed to have the best cars, maybe outside of Austin Dillon tonight, led a ton of laps, and 28th, 29th, Corey Heim, 31st, Riley Herbst, and 34th, Tyler Reddick. Very disappointing night for 23-11 on the results side, but the speed was promising. I guess they got that to take away. I already said Heim, 29th. Chris Buescher, What a horrific night for him. What a horrific night for RFK Racing. When it seemed like there are two guys, it was Priest versus Buescher for that final spot in the playoffs, it all goes to hell. Like, just Austin Dillon just nukes it. Just slaps Brad Keselowski right in the face, you know? Obviously, they knew this was a realistic possibility. Maybe not Austin Dillon winning Richmond again, but they knew that a new winner was a possibility below the cut line. So they knew that that was the potential position where someone wins and now all of RFK's out. It has not been the prettiest year from RFK. They have had their moments of speed for sure. You look at Brad Keselowski at Iowa. You look at Ryan Preece in the early stages of tonight. Buescher is still consistent as ever, but for the second straight year for Chris Buescher is having a really solid season, running in that 10th to 13th in the points all year long. But because there are too many new winners, too many winners below the cut line, you're going to miss the playoffs again if you don't win at Daytona. I don't know what to say. To Chris Buescher, to RFK, I mean, they're winless this year. Only one car maximum is making the playoffs. The season's been a little bit disappointing for RFK. I know Preece and Buescher have been in the mix in terms of points all season long, but ultimately, all three are about to miss the playoffs unless they win. That's extremely disappointing. Buescher was nowhere to be found tonight. Like, an extremely disappointing result. Riley Herbst, Cody Ware, Jesse Love, Tyler Reddick, as I said, very disappointing. Led some laps, was up front. Gets wrecked inadvertently by Suarez. Nothing he could do. Ryan Preece led 60 laps in this race, was up front, was on the pole, but they tried some weird strategy things and it just went awful. Like 35th? I mean, just an extremely disappointing night for them. John Hunter Nemechek, Justin Haley, and then Chase Elliott, they were the two DNFs as they were a part of the big one at Richmond, TM. So here are your playoff standings. We have 14 different winners. Obviously, one race left to go at Daytona, so the max is 15. So simply put, if we don't have a new winner, this is your playoff field. The only way that Alex Bowman or Tyler Reddick miss is with a new winner. And Tyler Reddick still got to feel pretty good because he's got 29 points. Now, if there's an early wreck, he might be in trouble. But as I said, as long as there's no new winner, as long as one of the 14 names that you see up here or a part-timer wins next week at Daytona, this is your playoff field. This is your grid. These are your 16 guys fighting for a championship. So ultimately, this is it. As I said, it's really not as complex. There's no tight points window. There's no, a spot here could mean something. Like, it's straight up if there's a new winner. Not that exciting, I guess. Depends on who you ask. So that's Richmond. As I said, really exciting race. Really, really good race. Best short track race of the season, if you ask me. So great to see the tire fall off. Great to see the different guys kind of moving up and throughout the field. The Monday after will be on Monday, so get ready, get excited for that. We'll do that at our normal time, 9 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow I'll do the SVG recap. We'll kind of ramp up championship cases again. Once again, who would have thought that in 2022, when Kyle Busch announced that he was joining RCR, who would have thought that Austin Dillon would make the playoffs and Kyle Busch wouldn't? Well, next week, we get to see if that's actually going to happen. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As I said, we got the Monday after on Monday. We got the SVG recap tomorrow. And then tomorrow night, I will announce the schedule for the next championship cases before Daytona.